Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're taking a close look at a specific ingredient market, tocopheryl nicotinate.
Hmm.
Sounds a bit technical, maybe, but the numbers behind it show some really interesting growth, some fascinating regional shifts as well.
That's right. And the data we're digging into, it's from a global market pulse episode based on cognitive market research's work. They've tracked its past performance, and projected things out quite a ways to 2033.
Okay, so our mission here is basically to unpack all that, the figures, the trends. We want to understand the why behind the numbers, where this market's been, and where it looks like it's heading.
Exactly.
So maybe start us off simply. What is tocopheryl nicotinate? Why is it popping up in these reports?
Sure. So the source material describes it as basically a compound that combines vitamin E and niacin, think vitamin E nicotinate.
Okay.
And it's become all pretty popular in formulations, especially skincare, nutraceuticals. Dermatology uses it too. It's like leveraging the benefits of both vitamin E and niacin together.
Right, so tapping into that whole skin health, anti-aging trend.
Precisely. It fits right into products aiming for that.
Got it. So with that in mind, what's the big picture look like globally?
Globally, yeah. So back in 2021, the market was valued at about $307.1 million.
Okay.
The projection sees it hitting $362 million pretty soon by 2025, and then continuing that upward climb to reach $503.1 million by 2033.
Wow, okay. That's quite a jump over the next decade or so.
Yeah.
What's the overall growth rate look like then, the CAGR?
The global compound annual growth rate, the CAGR, is projected at 4.2%.
4.2%. How does that stack up? Is that considered strong for this kind of market?
It's healthy, definitely indicates consistent expansion. It's not like some tech explosion, but for
Right.
an ingredient market like this, 4.2% shows really sustained demand, steady market penetration year after year.
Makes sense. And what's actually driving that growth? What are the key forces mentioned?
Well, the source points to a few big things. There's this clear consumer shift towards anti-aging products, people actively looking for ingredients that work.
Right, the search for the fountain of youth continues.
Pretty much. And then there's the growing demand for skin health supplements, that whole beauty from within idea.
Hmm.
And quite importantly, there's a really strong preference, especially in some markets, for clean label stuff. This compound seems to tick those boxes for a lot of consumers.
Yeah, that fits. People are definitely reading labels more, wanting effective and clean ingredients.
Hmm.
Okay, so that's the global view. Let's break it down region by region. Maybe start with North America.
Sounds good. North America is, unsurprisingly, a major market. It was worth $75.5 million back in 2021.
Okay.
Forecast shows it growing to $87.4 million by 2025 and then hitting $118.5 million by 2033. The CAGR there is 3.9%.
3.9%, slightly below the global average, but still solid. How does it look within North America? Like the U.S. versus Canada and Mexico?
Right. The U.S. is definitely the heavyweight, no surprise there. $62.3 million in 2021, projected to reach $93.7 million by 2033. Its specific CAGR is 3.6%.
Okay, so the biggest piece of the pie.
Yeah. But what's quite interesting is looking at its neighbors.
Oh, how so?
Well, Canada, according to this data, shows a notably more aggressive growth pattern. It goes from $8.8 million in 21 up to a projected $15.9 million by 33. That's a strong 4.9% CAGR.
Wow, 4.9. That's quite a bit higher.
It is. And Mexico is showing a strong trajectory, too. $4.5 million up to $8.9 million over the same period. That's a 4.8% CAGR.
Huh. So the U.S. is the biggest market value-wise, but Canada and Mexico are actually growing faster.
Mm-hmm.
Any indication why? Is it just catching up or?
The source doesn't spell out the exact reason for every country, but yeah, often faster growth like that can signal, earlier stages of market adoption maybe. Or perhaps new product lines incorporating these ingredients are taking off faster there.
Be regulatory things too, I suppose.
Could be. Or just shifting consumer tastes hitting faster. It definitely shows where the momentum is within the region beyond just the overall U.S. number.
Yeah, that adds some important nuance. Okay, interesting. Let's hop across the Atlantic. What's happening in Europe?
Okay, Europe. In 2021, it was valued a bit lower than North America at $59.6 million.
Right.
Projections have it rising to $69 million by 2025 and then hitting $94.4 million by 2033. The overall European CGR is pretty consistent at 4%.
4%. So slightly higher than North America's overall rate. Which countries are the main players there? Any standouts?
Germany leads in terms of market value. It's projected to go from $11 million in 2021 to $18.1 million by 2033. That's a 4.3% CAGR.
Right.
The UK actually shows a slightly faster growth rate at 4.7%, going from $5.1 million to $8.9 million.
Interesting.
And then the source just notes, modest but steady growth across France, Italy, Russia, Spain, Luxembourg.
This audio was created with podcastle.ai.
Modest but steady growth across France, Italy, Russia, Spain. Luxembourg is also mentioned, growing from $1.4 million to $2.3 million, a 4.1% CAGR.
So pretty broad-based growth. Any surprises in the European data?
Well, maybe this. The segment they label Rest of Europe actually has the highest growth rate in the whole region.
Really? Faster than Germany or the UK?
Yeah. It's projected to jump from $8.5 million in 2021 all the way to $15.5 million by 2033. That's a 5.1% CAGR.
5.1. That is interesting. What does that usually suggest when a rest category leads growth?
It often means the ingredient or trend is gaining wider traction beyond just the biggest, most established economies. Could be smaller EU countries, Eastern Europe, maybe other places not individually listed. It implies those drivers we talked about, anti-aging, clean label, are really spreading out.
Right. It's not just concentrated in a few spots. Okay, good insight. Now let's move to the region everyone talks about for skincare and wellness. Asia Pacific.
Absolutely. And yeah, the data here really backs that up for tocopheryl nicotinate. Asia Pacific was already the largest market globally back in 2021, $121.6 million.
Wow, already the biggest then.
Yeah. And it's projected to hit $149.4 million by 2025 and then climb significantly to $214.2 million by 2033.
Huge numbers. And the growth rate.
The CAGR for Asia Pacific is 4.6%, so highest among the major regions we've discussed.
So largest and growing fastest overall. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Which countries are really pushing that? I assume China plays a big role.
Yes. Oh, definitely. China dominates the region in terms of value, growing from $50.1 million in 2021 to a projected $89.9 million by 2033. That's a strong 4.9% CAGR.
Nearly $90 million just in China by 2033.
Okay.
But if you look just at the rate of growth, the real standout in Asia Pacific is India.
India. Faster than China's rate.
Yep. The source flags India as the fastest growing market in the region. It's got a projected CAGR of 5.7%.
5.7%. That's significantly higher than the global average.
It really is. It expands from $17.8 million in 2021 to a projected $35.5 million by 2033, doubling its market size.
What's fueling that kind of rapid growth in India specifically, do you think?
Again, the source doesn't detail the country's specific whys, but typically growth like that points to, well, a rapidly expanding middle class, rising disposable incomes, growing awareness of specific cosmetic ingredients.
Right, and maybe a booming local industry adopting these things quickly.
Exactly. A local cosmetics and nutraceutical industry that's maybe integrating newer formulations really fast. It signals a market that's, really taking off. Makes sense. So beyond China and India, who else contributes significantly in APAC?
Well, there are several others making solid contributions. Japan is projected to reach $14.4 million by 2033. South Korea, $17.3 million. Australia, $16 million. And Southeast Asia as a whole, projected at $9.4 million.
Okay, so it's a really dynamic region overall, but clearly led by China in size and India in speed. Got it. Let's shift gears now. Latin America.
Latin America also showing positive growth, definitely. Brazil leads the market there. Projected to go from $9.6 million in 2021 up to $15.7 million by 2033. That's a 4.5% CAGR.
Okay, Brazil leading the pack.
Yep. Argentina follows, projected to hit $6.7 million by 2033. Then you have Colombia at $3.5 million, Peru at $3 million, and Chile reaching about $2.8 million by that same year.
And are the drivers similar there, that interest in skincare and supplements?
Yes, the source notes exactly that, growing regional interest in skin-enhancing supplements and beauty formulation. So it seems those global trends are definitely taking root there, too.
Good to know. Okay, finally, let's cover the Middle East and Africa. What's the picture there?
Right. This region shows, well, more modest growth compared to the others. Suggests maybe it's in the earlier stages of adopting this specific compound.
Okay.
Egypt, for example, is projected to grow from $1.3 million in 2021 to $1.8 million by 2033. That's a 3.4% CAGR. Turkey shows a pretty similar rate, going from $1.7 million to $2.3 million.
So slower growth rates there. What about the rest of the region?
The segment called Rest of the Middle East actually shows an even slower CAGR at 2.3%, growing from $5.9 million to $7.4 million. The source specifically mentions relatively low market penetration currently.
So less developed market for this ingredient, but does that mean there's potential down the line?
Exactly what the source suggests. It points out that future growth opportunities there are really tied to a couple of things: getting regulatory approvals for products using the compound,
Makes sense?
and also awareness campaigns, educating consumers about the benefits. It seems like a market where some foundational work is still needed to really unlock the growth.
Okay, that provides a really comprehensive map of the global landscape. Thanks for walking us through all those numbers. So if we zoom back out now, what are the main sort of key takeaways someone should really grasp from all this data?
I think the primary message is clear. This tocopheryl nicotinate market is on a really healthy upward path globally. The main engines are that strong consumer demand for high-performance skincare ingredients
Right.
and that parallel growth in clean label supplements focused on skin health. Those seem to be the core drivers.
And regionally, the story is?
Regionally, North America and Europe are solid, steady performers, established markets. But the real powerhouse, both in current size and future growth momentum, is clearly Asia Pacific.
Especially China and India.
Exactly. Heavily influenced by China's sheer scale and India's really rapid growth rate.
So overall, despite the different speeds and starting points in various regions, the big picture is one of consistent long-term expansion.
Pretty much. Fueled by those consumer trends we keep mentioning, market maturation in some areas, and potential in others, the industry looks well positioned.
And its future path depends on.
Well, the source suggests it'll be influenced by ongoing research into the compound, continued growth in consumer awareness around the world, and how regulatory frameworks evolve, especially in those less developed markets.
That paints a very clear picture. A market with definite momentum, pulled along by some specific, powerful forces. Really appreciate you breaking down that data for us.
My pleasure. Happy to do it.
So you've heard the global scope, the regional dynamics, especially Asia-Pacific's lead, and also where the challenges and opportunities lie, like in the Middle East and Africa. Now, thinking about that point, the source made how growth in some places really hinges on awareness and regulation. What do you think might be the next big hurdle, or maybe the next catalyst, that could seriously change or even speed up the global growth story for tocopheryl nicotinate? Something for you to ponder as this market keeps evolving.
This audio was created with podcastle.ai.
Nicotinate. Something for you to ponder as this market keeps evolving.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question to think about.
Thank you all for joining us for this deep dive today. We hope you feel a bit more informed about this, maybe not so niche after all market. Okay, welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going to take a closer look at an ingredient that, well, seems to be popping up more and more. It's called tocopheryl nicotinate.
That's right. And we're using a market trends report from Cognitive Market Research as our guide here. Basically, we want to unpack what this stuff is, why the report thinks it's becoming important, and, what the future might hold for it based on their findings.
Sounds good. So let's jump right in. At its core, tocopheryl nicotinate, it's basically a combination, right? Two vitamins we probably know.
Exactly. You've got vitamin E, that's the tocopherol part, and niacin, which is vitamin B3. But the report makes it really clear it's not just like mixing them in a bowl, it's about how they work together.
The synergy.
Precisely. And one of the really key things the source highlights is its effect on microcirculation.
Okay, what's that exactly? Tiny blood flow.
Yeah, basically the blood flow happening right under your skin's surface. The report really emphasizes this because better circulation means, well, better delivery of nutrients and oxygen. That supports overall skin health, plus you get antioxidant protection.
Right, which makes sense for skincare. And the report connects this to the demand for anti-aging stuff.
Oh, absolutely. That's a huge driver according to the source. High-performance skincare, sometimes called cosmeceuticals. Manufacturers are putting tocopheryl nicotinate in these because it seems to help with things like skin elasticity, maybe reducing signs of aging. Basically what people want from those premium products.
So it's not just skin creams then. The report mentions other areas too.
It's making inroads in nutraceuticals as well. I think functional supplements, dietary blends. Because it supports blood flow and cellular stuff, it's showing up in products aimed at cardiovascular health, or even improving skin tone from the inside.
Interesting.
Yeah, and the source also talks about quite a bit of R&D, research and development, pushing its use in dermatology. They're looking into applications like photo protection.
Protecting from sun damage.
Right, that kind of thing. And also supporting capillary health, those really tiny blood vessels.
Okay, but it sounds promising, so what's the catch? The report must mention some challenges.
It does, yeah. A big one the source identifies is cost. Producing tocopheryl nicotinate, synthesizing it, is apparently quite complex.
Ah, so it's more expensive than just using vitamin E and niacin separately.
Significantly so, based on the report. And that leads right into the competition issue.
Right.
It's competing directly with cheaper options, like just using vitamin E plus, say, niacinamide, which is a really common, well-known form of B3. They're often just simpler and cheaper for manufacturers.
Especially for maybe mass market products where price is key.
Exactly. That's what the report suggests.
But even with those hurdles, the source sees trends working in its favor.
Definitely. The demand for multifunctional ingredients is a big one. Consumers increasingly want, one product that does several things rather than needing 5 different bottles.
Fewer ingredients, more impact.
Yeah. And tocopheryl nicotinate, offering multiple benefits from one compound, kind of fits that niche perfectly, especially, as the report notes, in that higher-end market.
And what about the clean label movement? Does that play a role?
It does, according to the source. People want ingredients they recognize, things backed by science, and, a combination of 2 well-known vitamins, vitamin E and B3, with documented benefits.
That sounds pretty good, right?
It aligns well with that desire for transparency and credibility.
Makes sense. Any specific regions the report calls out?
Yeah, it specifically mentions Asia-Pacific, markets like South Korea, Japan, China. Apparently, there's strong demand there for brightening and anti-aging products, where this compound's benefits, like improved circulation and antioxidant effects, are really valued.
Okay, so pulling it all together then. Based on the source material, we've got this synergistic vitamin combo, tocopheryl nicotinate. It's got real potential, especially where performance and transparency matter.
Mm-hmm. Its benefits seem to line up really well with some major trends in beauty and wellness.
So you listening might start seeing this ingredient more often, perhaps on labels, or maybe, just maybe, it's already in something you're using. Understanding it helps kind of decode some of the science behind these product trends.
Right. And maybe here's a final thought to chew on, something the source kind of leaves us with. Given that the report highlights the high production cost and the competition from just using the individual vitamins, which are cheaper,
Yeah.
will those unique multitasking benefits and the way it fits with future trends like clean labels, will that be enough to push it past the cost hurdle and make it a real mainstream ingredient?
Or will it stay mostly in those premium specialized products?
Exactly. It's sort of a question about what really drives ingredient choices in the long run, unique function versus cost. Something to think about next time you're scanning an ingredient list.
This audio was created with podcastle.ai.